Well, hello and welcome to the Faculty Lounge today. We're glad you stopped by to watch this presentation. Today we are lucky enough to have Rob Bentley from the UEN Professional Development Office with us and is going to give us a presentation on Preschool Pioneer and specifically Spanish resources in Preschool Pioneer. And Rob is uniquely qualified in our office as the Spanish teacher. So I think he's got some good stuff to show and some great resources. So I'm going to let him jump right in. Just a reminder, all of these are recorded and you can watch them at your convenience. And you can access them through the UEN Faculty Lounge website. So Rob, you're all ready to go.
All right. Well, I'm happy to be able to show you today some of the great resources that we have in Preschool Pioneer, the Spanish version of it. And so let's jump right in, and I want to show you how to get to the Preschool Pioneer Spanish version. And let's take a look at that. Okay, so you should see on the screen now Preschool Pioneer, just the English version of Preschool Pioneer. And if you're not familiar with this, the URL, the address for the regular Preschool Pioneer is simply preschool.uen.org. And there are lots of ways that you can find it from uen.org's main page, or you could Google Preschool Pioneer and get to this location. But this is the English version, and this is a very popular website. It's great for just what you would expect a preschool website to be. It helps children to prepare for kindergarten and to be in a classroom setting and be prepared to start to learn to read and write. It's great preparation for kindergarten. Now, if you're not familiar with the regular site, just a quick overview. You can see there's highlights that kind of rotate through, and these are changed on a periodic basis. We also have a Learn section that is excellent, that helps students learn their letters, their numbers, and they learn about themselves. And there's some really important topics in here in this section that cover some of the basics that you have to know in order to be successful in kindergarten. Things like days of the week and things like that you can learn and practice, the colors and things like that. There's also a STEM section to focus on the STEM subjects. And then we have a watch. We have a watch area where you can watch TV programs that are geared toward younger children, and a read section that recommends books for the students to read, and then a list of resources. So that's the Preschool Pioneer in English, just a quick overview. And then also in the upper right corner, notice that there is a link to the Utah Kids Ready to Read page, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later in this presentation. So this is a great website. We've had it for several years, and it's filled a great need that has been out there in the community. Well, just recently we have developed and created and posted a Spanish version of this. And you can see in the upper right corner there's a button that says Español, and anyone can just go and click that. It's easy to miss it though if you're not looking for it. So if you click Español, it takes you to basically the same resource, the same site that I've been introducing you to in the last few minutes. But this one is in Spanish, and there are some key differences, and there's some things that you need to be aware of. So first off, just because I'm in the browser that I'm in, notice that it identified that this is a Spanish website, and it wants to know if I want to translate it to English. So I'm just going to X out of that. If you get that option, on Preschool Pioneer Spanish, you can just X out of that and get back to looking at the site in Spanish. And you can see that a lot of this is just translated word for word from the site, the English site. Let's take a look first at the temas destacados in the upper left corner here. This is the highlights section. And at first glance, it looks pretty identical to the English one, but it is a little different. Some of these highlights are identical, just simply translated into Spanish, but there are some additional ones. Okay, so I didn't draw attention to this, but on the English site, there was a highlight dealing with Daniel Tiger. That's a great program for kids on PBS stations. Now, in the Preschool Pioneer in Spanish, okay, we don't have a highlight about Daniel Tiger. Instead, we have one for Colorín Colorado, which is a wonderful resource. It's a bilingual resource. If you click the link, it takes you there. And this is a very highly regarded website that is used all over the world in lots of ways to help students in a bilingual fashion. If they want to learn Spanish, if they want to learn English, it's useful either way. And there's lots of resources here. And you can see there's information about El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, that's coming up here pretty quick. And just lots of wonderful resources. So you get different highlights on the Escuela Preescolar Pioneer because it is geared toward Spanish speakers and their parents. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is that one of these highlights, this first one in fact, it says Nueva App, Preparémonos. So it's talking about a new app, and you're supposed to click to find out more about it. Well, if you click, I just want you to know, to be aware, that it takes you to the app section of the website of actually Preschool Pioneer. It takes you out of the Spanish version and into the English. And the reason for that is because they're really just, these apps don't really exist in Spanish. And so if you do click the link for the apps, it takes you out of Spanish and into the English. Now, having said that, this app that it's advertising here in this highlight, if you download the Let's Get Ready app, there is some support for foreign language, specifically Spanish. So that is a good highlight to tell people about. But when they click, it takes them into the English, and they'd have to download. They'd have to go here to the Let's Get Ready link, download the app in order to find out what's there in it. Okay, so that's probably enough about the temas destacados section, the highlight area here in the upper left corner. But that's an important thing. I hope that parents and pre-K educators will check this often and will see the highlights and use those as inspiration and ideas for their classes and for their students. Okay, next, let's drop down and take a look at Aprender. Aprender. This is the learning section in English. Okay, this is the section where the students hopefully are going to go, or their caregivers can go to help the students learn different things. And we've got letras, letters, numeros, numbers, yo, which means I or me in this case, and STEM. So I'm going to start with letras, and I just want to point out what happens when you click that link. It takes you to a great list here of about 10 different websites that will help your students or your children to learn the letters in Spanish. Okay, now some people might be thinking, well, do I really need or want my young child to be learning the alphabet in Spanish or in English? And it probably depends. In my opinion, why not learn both? Okay, and there's a great movement in Utah and also across the country toward dual immersion. There are several dual immersion schools and situations here in Utah, and they've had lots of success with that, and it's a great program. So why not have your son or daughter growing up learning Spanish and English? And so anyway, in my opinion, this is a useful thing for dual immersion people that have that goal of their students or their children being bilingual, and then also people who just want their kids to know the alphabet and the numbers in Spanish. So, and of course, this could also be useful for foreign language for older students as well. So I'm going to just hop into a couple of these resources. The first one is Abecedario, Aprende las letras. So ABC alphabet, learn the letters. So you click on that and it brings up an activity that is very colorful and fun. At least it looks fun. And we'll find out in just a minute if it actually is. But the idea here is that the students would choose their level, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or the final level, the ultimate level. So if I pick principiante, beginner, you can't hear this because it's just coming through my headphones, but the activity here is saying which of these begins with the letter A, and of course that's all spoken in Spanish, and the answer is abeja, which is a bee, and then you click continuar, and it goes on to the next activity. So sure, this is drill and practice. The students are simply listening and then clicking on what they think the right answer is. But it is a fun way to start to recognize, the letters, letter recognition. That's so important for kindergartners to be able to do. And so in pre-K, that's something that this will help them with. You'll see that there is a link here to an activity with the Sesame Street characters. Again, you're not able to hear this, but this character, and I forget his or her name, is singing in Spanish the numbers. Okay, so that's kind of a fun one. And we've got El Alfabeto. That's a pretty fun activity. And then there's some others. Thomas the Train, and several other activities that will help the students to start to recognize the letters in Spanish and be able to name them and to pronounce them correctly. The next section here is Numeros, and I just want to point out one of the activities here. There's many that are really good, and notice the Curious George. We have a lot of Curious George activities in here, as well as some other favorites like Clifford and others. But I'm going to just point out this one here, Estación de Tren, okay, train station. And again, there is audio that goes with this, but you can't hear it. Instructions are being read to the students, and it says, click the green button to begin. So we begin. And Curious George's friend here is giving instructions. And the idea here is that the students are supposed to match the two trains. This first train has 3 sections, and the second one only has 1. So I can try to make them the same, and it looks like I made a mistake. So instead, I should do that, and then I click this. So just a very simple activity, but it helps students to start to understand and increase their level of numeracy in by doing these activities. So those are just that's just one example of, but you get the idea. I hope there's many other activities similar to that that help students with numeracy. Let's move on and look at yo, the section for yo. And there's some other activities here. This is one of the better ones, in my opinion. It's called Caja para Clasificar, which means classification box. Okay? And the students here are supposed to listen to her instructions, and then Sid, the science kid, and then they're supposed to fill up the box with the correct items. So this one has to be amarillo, yellow. So you click, put some yellow rocks in there, and then it moves on to green. Okay, so again, a very simple activity, but these are, keep in mind, these are preschool kids, and the idea here is they're learning to follow directions, they're learning the colors, and they're learning about characteristics and things like that. So it's a good little activity. Next up, this is one of my favorite resources, and this is one that I wish I had known about these resources when I was a Spanish teacher. I taught junior high school Spanish, and just loved doing that. And I created music. Some of it was my own. Other music that I used were created by other people, but I would adapt it for my classroom and include images to go with the music, and it was great. It would help the students, I think, to learn the language, because they were singing these songs in Spanish that used the vocabulary that we were studying. Well, I put a lot of work into that when I was teaching Spanish, but somebody else has already done that. Okay, you can see here these activities that have a musical note on them. Most of them come to the Rock a Lingua Fun Musical Spanish website, and if you click play, this one, for example, will sing the days of the week, los días de la semana. You click play, and it begins, and again, I don't think you can hear this, but it's a pretty catchy, well done, well performed song, and it focuses on the days of the week. Okay, and this is basically the lyrics. Los días de la semana son siete. And there's a lot of repetition, which can be a good thing. It gets stuck in your head and helps the students to remember the days of the week. And of course, you could print this out for younger children, and there's worksheets and things that you could give to them to help them learn the days of the week in Spanish. So anyway, if I were still teaching Spanish at the junior high or high school level, I would probably still use this, to be honest with you, because it's a great, easy, fun way to learn the days of the week. All right, so that's another resource. Let's look at one other example. Cosas de la escuela. Things, school things, school items is what this is about. And you can see it's another song. And this one's a little bit more kind of upbeat, and another good song that's going to get stuck in the student's head, which, as a language teacher, I think that's a good thing. But they'll be singing this song, and it'll help them remember the key words that they need to know for school. Okay. Now, in my Spanish 1 classes, as a foreign, learning Spanish as a foreign language, again, this would have been totally valuable. We had a whole unit on these words in Spanish. And so, again, I wish this had existed when I taught Spanish, or maybe it did and I just wasn't aware of it. But think of the preschool students. Very soon they will be in a classroom. It might be a dual immersion classroom. It might be an English, speaking classroom. But regardless, they need to know these key elements of a classroom. They need to know how to say They need to know what a book is. They need to know scissors and pencil and notebook and book. So it's important that they learn these, and they can do it in a fun way here on the Pioneer Preschool Pioneer Spanish. Okay, I'm going to close out of that, but I hope you'll check it out, as well as the other resources that I've pointed you toward. All right. So the final section in Aprender, which again means learn, or the learning section, is STEM. And when you click on STEM, you can see it divides it out: science, technology, engineering, and math. And yes, there are activities that pre-kindergarten students can do to help them, in the right path toward engineering, toward math, technology, and science. I just have time to highlight one of these. I'm going to go to science, and I'm going to go down here and click Sorpresa Climática. And this talks about basically the different climates and different habitats around the world. And this gentleman here from Sid the Science Kid is, right now he's kind of jabbering a lot, but he's giving instructions on how to use this activity. So your pre-K child doesn't have to be able to read. All they have to be able to do is listen in Spanish to what this gentleman is saying, and then they can go ahead and click. Okay, so I'm supposed to click something that goes in the climate here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, this one goes in there. Rana goes there. So kind of a fun little activity. You click the check mark when you're done, and it moves on to different and eventually harder questions. So kind of a fun thing. So that's that's the example I want to focus on. But just know that there are several others that you can look at, and that students can learn some science concepts. I'm going to back out of that, just clicking back a couple times, and I want to move down, and you can see that there's two more sections down here that we need to look at: mirar, which means to watch, and leer, to read. And similar to the Preschool Pioneer English version, we do have a section here that highlights some live TV that they can watch, and they can learn some Spanish. So if you just click on that, it takes you to a program schedule for a Spanish program called The Number Crew. And you can watch these on TV, channel 9. With the digital, it's 9.1. So, and notice it tells you the day, the episode. So October 31st, coming up here. Pretty quick here. And we also have the time. Okay, so 11:38 on October 31st, and this is what the topic is. And of course, this overview is in English, but the episode is in Spanish. And you could plan ahead and say, okay, for preschool that's coming up, or for this activity that's coming up, I want to watch November 20th or whatever. So I'm going to X out of that, but you could just go here to find out when you can tune in to a Spanish educational program on UEN TV. And then finally, at least in this main part of the page, it has a leer section for reading, and we recommend different books here that the students can get and learn from. Many of these are in English, but it's a kind of a good little blurb here to get students interested in it. And then there's a link to the public library system. You can choose which library is yours, so you can check this out for free. Okay. Now let's jump over to the right side. On the right side of the page, we have recursos, or resources, and these are some really excellent ones. Let's take them one at a time. We have Calendario De Actividades, which is a calendar of activities. And, a lot of times as, preschool teachers, whether you're a parent that's working as a preschool teacher for your own child or for neighborhood children, that's something that my wife does sometimes. Actually, almost always does that. Or whether you're a professional, a pre-K professional, that this is your job to teach preschool. These, one of the things that often preschool teachers do is they think about, okay, what is coming up? What's an important event or a holiday that's coming up that we can talk about with the kids, get them excited, get them learning about it. And this is great for it, the Calendario de Actividades. And notice, if there's several different options, but I'm just going to click on the first one. This is one for September, but I could switch it to October just by clicking here. But you can see that there's a bunch of different national holidays here. So National Month of the Chicken, okay. And that's one of the events that's coming up, or that is in September. There's a work day of work. All these different events in this case, September. The second calendar has a different approach. It brings up, in this case, the month of September, and it gives you an activity or a question or an assignment for each day. So for example, September 16th, it says, with your help, your child will write the numbers from 1 to 5. And so that's something to accomplish, with the preschool child on that day. Okay, the next day it says, listen to an audiobook. So there's something to do each day that the students can learn from, and their learning can build and grow and grow. So it's a nice thing. And then there's a third option as well that's somewhat similar. Now this one reads in English. There is a button in the upper right that says Spanish, but as you can see there, it didn't work quite so well for me there. Okay, so let me just hop back in, and so that's the calendar. In the events of Preschool Pioneer events, basically these are events in the community that students and their parents, preschool kids and their parents could enjoy. So the Kearns Library is doing a music and story time, and it's going to be in Spanish. There's a Pleasant Grove activity in Provo. There's some activities, Saratoga Springs, Logan, and it's good to know that you can go here and you can find activities in the community that are targeted to children, and in this case, Spanish-speaking children or dual immersion people that want to, want their children to be in a dual immersion atmosphere. These are great. I'll back out of that. We also have some resources for parents. These are good things for any parent to know. We've got counsel and suggestions for parents, how to prepare a child for school, how to be safe, how to eat healthy, exercise and health, just for kids, and we've got STEM. So each of these will help a parent, with questions that they may have about helping their children. And then we have two more sections. We've got, this is, in English, what this would be called is Early Childhood Professional. So these are resources for a professional early childhood caretaker. So a preschool teacher or other professional whose job it is to watch the kids and help them prepare for school, you can see that there's links that are specific to them. Although many of us could learn and benefit from that. And then finally we have videos de premedia, so pre-media videos. And this is something that I think a lot of parents just don't know about. But if you click that link, it takes you to a page where you can request access just by clicking this this link here, this button. You can request access to pre-media, whether you want it in Spanish or English. And then once you have that, you can click to enter, and you can put in your login and password, and it gives you not links. What it does, and you're going to probably see the password here. I'm going to just break that away for a second so you don't have to the whole world doesn't see that password necessarily. But if you're a Utah parent or educator, you're going to be able to get that, and you're going to be able to access this. Okay, there we go. So I've just logged into pre-media, and over here on the right lists videos and programs that you can download and keep and show to your students, to your kids, or people that are in your preschool class. So I mentioned Daniel Tiger earlier. These are in English, but these are wonderful high quality videos, and you can just click on the title of one, and then you should be able to download it either for Mac or Windows. Okay, I'll back out of that. Another great one is Draw Me a Story. Okay, these are fairy tales and folk tales, not in Spanish, but they're great for kids. Between the Lions is also fantastic. And then Number Crew is in Spanish. Okay, they can download these wonderful videos in Spanish, and you can play those for your kids or students. We are out of time, so the last thing that I had wanted to share with you about Preschool Pioneer is, we've looked very thoroughly through this resource, and I hope you'll agree that it's a wonderful site. But in the upper right corner, notice it says Niños de Utah listos para leer. If you click that, it takes you to the Utah Ready to Read website, which you can see Utah Kids Ready to Read. It's in English, but recently that has also been translated to Spanish, and anyone can just click the button here in the upper right to jump into a Spanish version of it. And you'll recognize this. It follows the same pattern as what I showed you just a few minutes ago, on the Preschool Pioneer page. But this is even more resources for parents and preschool teachers. So that's what we have for you as in our Preschool Pioneer in Spanish, and I hope that you'll take a great advantage of this and use it with your students or your children. So thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you in future Faculty Lounge presentations.
All right, thanks, Rob. Appreciate you time to get together for some great resources there. With that, we'll wrap up the Faculty Lounge for today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you again. Have a happy Halloween.